And if you weren't here last week, Kara was sharing with us that she was just on retreat. And she had an insight while she was on retreat that there was a kind of secret hope that she has that is painful because it's kind of hopeless, right? It's an insatiable wish. And I really appreciated that she shared that because I have some of those secret hopes and insatiable wishes too. Maybe you do too. I have been navigating some health issues recently, and it seems like it might be something that is chronic and might not go away. And while I'm aware of that truth, there is a secret hope I have, right? That I can get it to go away, right? If I just kind of carry on like normal, things will go back to normal. Right? I really like to think about these secret, hopeless hopes because I like to think about them in the context of my practice because I think there's so many good teachings and wisdom around this that the Buddha offered us. And I have to imagine that the Buddha himself, before his own awakening, spent a lot of time working with his own hopeless hopes, and that he saw that this is something that all of us have. And one of the teachings that I like thinking about that has to do with this are the teaching about the 8 vicissitudes, the 8 worldly winds. These things, these forces in life or experiences in life that sort of blow this way and that way. And this teaching is speaking to this hopeless hope that we can just get what we want and avoid what we don't want. And so this teaching is reminding us that no one gets to go through life only experiencing pleasure and no pain. Right? The wind blows this way and that. There's pleasure and pain. That is the way it is. And this teaching reminds us that no one gets to experience only gain and no loss. That no one gets to experience only praise and no blame. That no one gets to have only success and no failure. The winds just blow this way and that. This is just how it is. But even though we might intellectually be able to understand that truth, there are these secret hopes there anyway. Right? That, and if we pay attention, we might be able to see ourselves kind of grasping at them. Right? These ways to get rid of what is painful and just feel good. Right? How can I make sure that everybody thinks positively about me and likes me? Right? How can I make sure that I never mess up or do anything embarrassing? How can I hold on to this thing that I love and make sure that I never lose it? And so Kara talked about her teacher on this retreat, Brian Lesage, who I just think is like the perfect teacher to be with when you're working with one of these insatiable, hopeless hopes. And I remember listening to a Dharma talk from him. I can't remember exactly when this was, but this was at some time when I was feeling really lonely. And I thought I would listen to a Dharma talk about loneliness. And I couldn't have been aware of it at the time, but I definitely had one of those secret hopes that I would listen to a Dharma talk and it would get rid of my loneliness for me. It would show me how to not be lonely anymore. And instead, what Brian Lesage said in this talk was, you might always feel lonely. He said, for some of us, no matter how much connection and love we get, we still feel lonely. And that might not go away. So instead of trying to get rid of loneliness, we might ask how we want to be with loneliness while it's here. And this is not just about loneliness, right? We all have some version of that thing, right? Some of us may always feel unworthy, no matter how much praise we get. Some of us may always feel scared or anxious in our relationships, no matter how much reassurance we get. And this message that we might not be able to get rid of that is another kind of thing that sounds hopeless, right? And it kind of is. We are giving up a hope that we may be able to live a life without pain, without discomfort, without losing the things we love. It's teachings like this that remind me of how the Dharma is described as subtle, deep, and difficult to grasp. It really challenges this really deep belief that I think we all share, that the way to be happy and be free is to get rid of the things that are painful. Right? There's a version of this that I think is really common in people who are drawn to meditation, which is that that secret belief that I had when I went to listen to this Dharma talk from Brian Lesage, which is that I would find a way to sort of rise above pain, right? That I would find a way to experience what is painful in life without it being painful. And so I've been thinking a lot about this stuff all week, and started thinking about the Dharma as a kind of invitation, right, to come fully into this experience of being alive, right? The whole of it. Right? Isn't this first noble truth, there is suffering, isn't that an invitation, right, to be with life as it is, right, all of it. A life that includes loneliness, that includes grief and despair, that includes anger, a full life where we will feel embarrassed sometimes and jealous sometimes and frustrated sometimes. And this coming fully into life, the whole of it, that's what we're doing when we sit and practice meditation. And we're inviting the mind back to be with life as it is, the whole of it. Right? All parts of it, the beauty and the pain, to live fully in it. And I do think that we can feel that there's some resonance there, right? When we are really engaged with what's happening in the present fully, we can feel in our hearts and our bodies that there is a kind of freedom there, right? Even when that thing that we're with is heartbreaking. And so then what? Right? We are fully here in our hopeless situations. And then what? There's a story in the suttas about a king, King Pasenadi. And he goes to the Buddha in the middle of the day. And it sounds like they just kind of sit there for a while. And the Buddha basically says, so what have you been up to? Where are you coming from here in the middle of the day? And the king said, I was doing what is typical of kings who are intoxicated with the intoxication of sovereignty, obsessed by greed and sensual pleasures, who have attained stable control of their country and who rule having conquered a great sphere of territory on earth. And so this very successful king, who sounds like he's accomplished what kings are supposed to do, he has his land and his wealth and his power, and it's stable, it's safe. He comes to the Buddha, right, the spiritual teacher. Right, he's got everything, so why would he do that? I have to kind of wonder if he was feeling some of this insatiable wish, some insatiable hope, right? And the Buddha said, imagine, great king, that a trustworthy messenger arrives from the east, carrying grave news. He says he has seen a huge mountain, as high as the clouds, coming this way, crushing all living beings in its path, and he asks you what is to be done. Another messenger comes from the west, and he says, too, he has seen a huge mountain as high as the clouds coming this way, crushing all living beings in its path, and he asks you what is to be done. Another messenger comes from the north and another from the south, and these two men report a great mountain closing in on you, crushing all life in its path. If, great king, such a great peril should arise, such a terrible destruction of human life, the human state being so precious and fragile, what will you do? And King Pasenadi answers, if such a great peril should arise, such a terrible destruction of human life, the human state being so precious and fragile, there is nothing to do except to act with compassion and wisdom and integrity. And the Buddha said, I am your messenger from the east and the west and the north and the south. Aging and death are closing in on you. They are closing in from all sides. When aging and death are rolling in on you, great king, what should be done? So the Buddha is kind of inviting this king to wake up to this hopeless situation that he's in, that we are all in, that we are all susceptible and vulnerable to aging and illness and death. What should we do in this hopeless situation? The king's answer, I think, has so much faith in it. It is just as I said, in the face of death, the only thing that makes sense is to develop wisdom and compassionate action. So he's in a hopeless situation, right? Everyone is going to be crushed. And the only response that makes sense to him is to act with compassion for himself and for everyone else, to be good to himself and to everyone else to the extent that he can. And I say it has faith in it because why? Right? Everyone is going to be crushed. Why compassion? But I think that when we are truly present, when we are truly here with clear view about our hopeless situation, we're here with the heart, right? And the heart doesn't really ask what's the point, right? The heart just sees that there's suffering there, and that there is a response to suffering that just makes sense to the heart. No matter what's going to happen, right? Whether we'll always be lonely or not, whether we'll always be sick or not, right now the heart sees that there's suffering, and there's only one thing that makes sense, which is compassion.